And that's business news for this hour. Thank you for watching. My name is Lekachin Baba today.
Thank you very much, Leah Katun. And for us this morning, it's time to take a look at some of the headlines on the front pages of the newspapers we have here.
As we look at what the national dailies are saying this morning, our regular reviewer, Bayo Atoyobi, is here in the studio. We welcome you once again.
Good morning, Cliff. How are you today? It's Friday.
Yeah, today is Friday.
It's Thursday.
He's taking us. He's in a hurry to
But I know
move to
you're
Friday.
in a hurry to go for the weekend.
I'm
It's
sure
a long one.
The newspapers are not saying that.
Nigeria.
The newspapers are not saying that. Let's move on
I'm
now.
just one day ahead.
Let's start with the Authority this morning. On the front page of the Authority, we have $120 million debt. Nigeria withdraws from 90 world bodies, says membership not mandatory, adapts dialogue in repatriation of looted funds. Also, we have at the lower part of the Authority this morning, Nnamdi Kanu not in our custody, Army. His lawyers sue Burutai. And we have other stories on top of the nameplates of the Authority this morning. 2019 presidency zones to North, PDP tells Fayoshe, with details on page 4, and terrorist tag on IPOP discriminatory, Nwodo. That's Johannese president. Details on page 4. And Justice Salami has NJC's committee on Luther's trial. Details on page 4. And also Boko Haram, Cameroon deposed 100,000 Nigerians. With more details on page 4 of the Authority. We also have a similar story on the blueprint. To save $70 million yearly, Nigeria creates 90 global bodies, declares UN Security Council obsolete. And of course, we have other stories, but Blessing, I'm sure you have some.
Yes, the story you took on Nigeria getting out from about 90 international organizations is the one leading for Daily Trust this morning. Dues force Nigeria out of 90 international organizations. Start there continues on page 5. But just above that, the issue of story on Justice Salami heading NJC's Anti-Graft Committee is on page 3. NJC stands for National Judicial Council. Just beside that story, you find on page 10 in greater details, reps issue ultimatum for Treasury single account audit report. Well, for the photograph on the front page of the Daily Trust, it's not only in this part when you hear parliamentarians engaging in some sort of fisticuff. That is Ugandan parliament breaking out yesterday in the state capital Kampala on the constitutional change in order to extend the president's role. That's on the front page of the Daily Trust still. Independence, federal government declares Monday public holiday. You find more details on page 10. Now, 2019, convention to make Omar PDP is coming from Adeniro as well as Brian Mantu. More details, page 34. Students protest as truck kills students, 2 others. Where? On page 6, in greater details. Quickly now to the New Telegraph before Bayo comes in. Just above the nameplates, New Telegraph, NCC, that's the Nigerian Communication Commission, Nigeria's investment in ICT hits about $70 billion. And there is a story inside, 25.7 billion naira theft. Supreme Court orders judge to continue Atuche and wife's trial. More details on page 2. Justice Salami heads committee on Luther's trial. CJ's Olanikpekun Agbakoba, Mahmoud are members. NBA backs creation of special courts for graft cases.
Yes.
Yes, let's start with
That's a dominant story this morning.
It is the dominant, but let's start with the human interest story. A student of Kogi State Polytechnic was lost yesterday when an articulated van conveying cement lost control, rammed into a tricycle, and And unfortunately, the student of Kogi Polytechnic was among the 3 persons that were killed. The students barricaded the Okene Lokoja Abuja highway, but later on, security agencies safety restore traffic. Quite an unfortunate incident. Now talking about the instituted by the National Judicial Council, the function of the committee, among others, is to drive the new policy on anti-corruption war. They have been given, they are to conduct regular monitoring and evaluation of the proceedings, advise Chief Justice of Nigeria on the process of eliminating any delays. They are also to provide feedback to the National Judicial Council on the process of all cases. They are to conduct background check on judges selected for the courts and also evaluate their performances. It may be recalled that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, while swearing in the latest Silk, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, actually indicated that the heads of court should designate 1 or 2 courts specifically as a court to try corruption cases. And so the compositions are for 50 members. A former president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Ayo Salami, is a member. And they have broadened it. You have the Chief Judge of 4 states are also members, and the current president of Nigeria Bar Association, as well as 4 of his predecessors, are also members. The other members are drawn from the Judicial Council, the Ministry of Justice, and other.
I think it's a good step, you know, to supporting government's anti-corruption policy.
Yeah, you see, when people say government, we tend to think that the government is only the executive.
Yeah,
not
that's
forgetting
exactly.
that you require the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature to function collectively together.
The policy initiatives are more often than not, you know, from the executive.
Collaborating to wage war against corruption. The other story of interest is also that as many as 37 political parties have registered to contest the Anambra November 18th election. Among them are 32 men and 5 women who are contesting to be governor. This is aside from some women who are also running mate from the gubernatorial candidates. INEC has also registered 44 observer groups comprising of 38 domestic and 16 international to look at that.
Ayo, let's look at the Nigeria's move to save about $70 million yearly, that by withdrawing from some international bodies.
It is actually saving liability of 70 million.
Because we're already in debt of $120
yes,
million.
The basis is that if you are a member of an international body, you must meet your commitments by paying your subscription and other commitments. If you cannot meet them, it impinges on your international reputation because you are not meeting your commitment in international circles. So it's a wise step to ensure that we withdraw for those we cannot meet our commitments. Subsequently, as things improve, if we are able to find them very necessary, we go back to them.
The other issue of Nigeria declares UN Security Council obsolete, undemocratic, is another position, you know, that it's traded in the papers today. This day has it on the front page, so do other papers, the blueprints and what have you.
Well, you see, the members of the Security Council are nominated, but there are 5 permanent members.
Yes.
And that is what is being challenged around the world.
And 10 others
yes.
who are not
permanent members. That is what is being challenged around the world. You cannot have 5 permanent members who are predominantly representing a geopolitical part of the world to the exclusion of
the rest of the world.
Parts of the world. And that formed part of President Muhammad Buhari's address to the 72nd United Nations General Assembly. There has been clamor for 2 permanent seats for Africa also on the National Security Council. Come to think of it, there are 154 nations around the world, and Africa continent has about 54 countries.
And yet no representation at the as permanent member of the UN Security Council. Let's move on to other things now. This day newspaper we have on top of the nameplate with Obiano Obaze Nwoye given the all-clear Anambra Gabble elections or gubernatorial race takes shape. We can see Anambra is a very interesting place when we talk about elections there. And coming back on top of on the front page of this day, we also have the NGSC story and Ajimobi, why North is against restructuring, with details of it on page 49 of This Day This Morning. We also have a picture story of African lawmakers meet. We have the President of the Senate, the Speaker, House of Representatives, and of course Secretary General of the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, Mr. Martin Chongong, during the opening session of the African Regional Conference of the IPU Young Parliamentarians Forum held at the National Assembly.
Okay, quickly, so some other stories on the front page of the New Telegraph. Leading for the New Telegraph, Biafra, IPOB sues Buratai at court to compel Army Chief to produce Kanu. More details on page 2. Now, the human angle story you have there is in the photograph you have of two mothers of triplets. One to the left is that of in Ondo State. The mother of this triplets lost the husband when the pregnancy was just into 2 months. And the one to the right, you have the travel of another mother whose husband is on the run for the wife producing triplets. Right.
Blessings and
This blessing?
Blessings from
blessings as in children.
Unfortunately, Liman is overwhelmed and he has taken to his feet. We hope that he will come back soon. There has been an instance like that in the past. There's also this report about the first DNA forensic center opened in Lagos. It's said to be the first in West Africa. IPOB, yes, the lawyer representing the proscribed IPOB has gone to court seeking a court order that the Chief of Army Staff produces the leader of IPOD in court at his next day, that is October 17. However, the PRO to the 82 Command, Colonel Musa is his name, he says that the army does not have the custody of the IPOB leader. Meanwhile, federal government has gazetted the proscription order of the Federal High Court of Abuja. It is the official gazette government notice number 85, titled Terrorism Prevention Proscription Order, notice of September 20th. The court also directed that the order should be published in 2 national newspapers.
Okay, we'll still have other stories. FG debuts 100 billion Sukuk offer oversubscribed. Debt Management Office. That's on Blueprint. Yes. With details of that report on page 33. That shows Nigerians identifying with the projections of government. But FG declares Monday public holiday. Public holiday on page 8. We'll be talking about that. We also have woman batters house help, burns face with hot iron in Abuja. Wow, that's a sorry tale.
A very sad one.
Sad
Domestic
one.
violence.
And call Kwakwanso to order Kano Assembly tells IJP with details on page 8. And of course, Bindal rebuttal in fierce battle for 2019. Of interest, battering
yes.
at the public holidays.
Yes, public holidays. The other day I saw somewhere they said public holidays around the world. Nigeria has one of the highest, 16 public holidays in a year. We are very hardworking.
Official ones?
We are very hardworking, and also sometimes we like to take our rest. We're talking about the first DNA in Lagos, West Africa. We always talk about superlative. We have the first, but we must ensure that it is the best. Not just we are the largest, but it must be the most efficient.
Sure.
I think that's
Tayibi, thank you very much. Today is a review, and tomorrow is another day. And yes. Friday is tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow is Friday.
I think you can have your Friday after we'll see you here in the morning. Bayo, we thank you so much for being here once again, and I'm sure you'll be here tomorrow.
Yes, I will.
From there, you can proceed on your public holidays.
Long one.
This is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll be back in a moment to continue with our main focus on appreciating what we talk about our hours towards socio-economic development.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
Straight A's mean better days. On those days I worry, my mind's so blurry. Studied every chapter, still can't find the answer. Always is the answer with its comfortable top layer and reliable protection with Super Gel. No stay, no chat. I know I'll get straight A's. Straight A's mean better days. Our future starts today. Stay happy always.
Now for only 150 naira, get the new Always Pocket Money Pack.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, oh get roller. Change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with
Another edition of TV Guide magazine is out with revealing accounts of trending stories. With the dwindling oil revenue, he says there is no reason to worry.
We strongly believe that culture is Nigerians' new oil. And we're going to show that by creating wealth, our art and culture will be a statement for all of us.
Our cover story is on Otumba Olusegun Runchewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. For upcoming TV presenters, Elegant Elizabeth Banu tells you what it takes. A peep into the activities of the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative, a mandate being fulfilled. A trip to the Yankari Games Reserve and Safari in Bauchi State brings you closer to nature. And the Oshun Oshogo Festival, our culture, our pride. Professor Adiku, the Vice-Chancellor, University of Abuja, tells us what it means to manage a university, plus our regular features, star profile, media issues, relationships, young minds, entertainment, sports, and lots more. Pick your copy now at the vendors or at every NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, still your indispensable companion.
If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria, showing live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. Now, art is what most people want to appreciate through their own different means. And how do we get society to benefit from this? Well, to set the tone for our discourse this morning, we'll take this background report as put together by Saliu Abdullahi.
With about 250 different languages, Nigeria prides herself as having the largest tourism and cultural potential and sites in West Africa. From the north to south, west down to the east, Nigeria's rich culture can be seen and felt among the people. In fact, Nigeria have an interesting cultural norms and value that are only peculiar among the people. Investing in this vast and rich cultural heritage to be strategically repositioned and serve as a driver to lift the Nigerian economy has for decades remained an issue among key stakeholders and governments at all levels. Nigerian traditional arts brilliantly shows how human beings express their experience and values through various forms of art and cultural activities. The art and culture of Nigeria embody the vivid image of the Nigerian way of life, combined with the magnificent history of the past. One of the major aspects of Nigerian art and culture lies in the fact that they draw their inspiration from the traditional folk heritage of the different regions. Nigerian art and culture give one a glimpse of the beautiful stone carvings, wood carvings, and different forms of glasswork in different shape and size, cutting across Nigeria's multiple culture, and have been ranked as one of the best in Africa and the entire world because of its beauty, quality, and the messages they pass. Another prominent craft work of Nigeria is cloth weaving. The Nigerian government of today is encouraging and promoting arts in every part of the country to retain and promote the culture and traditions of the people. At the arts exhibition held early this month, Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, stressed the contribution of the creative industry to Nigeria's exit from recession and said it is one industry that grew by 11.7%, even when other subsectors of the economy were experiencing contraction. All over the world, cultural industries have been optimally and gainfully harnessed by most countries of the world, especially Europe, America, and Asia, as creative enterprise and tool for sustainable development. Stakeholders say private sector too should diversify its strategies and invest in the country's creative industry, not only to provide a vibrant market for the rich cultural enterprises, but also to confirm Nigeria's creative and cultural leadership on the African continent. In Nigeria, many are involved in art work, irrespective of their status in the society. Many private and public organizations are already taking up the challenge by inculcating the values of artwork. Experts say arts in Nigeria have the power to brand the Nigerian project through the use of her creative industry, performing arts, visual arts, films, and home video to improve and sustain her image and identity at home and abroad. Nigerian artwork have distinguished themselves all over the world. Hence, for the first time in its history, the Smithsonian's National Museum of African Art, the United States Premium Museum that is dedicated exclusively to the collection, conservation, study, and exhibition of Africa's traditional and contemporary arts, will hold an exhibition at the National Museum, Benin City in Edo State. In view of this, how can arts be embraced as a vital organ of cultural tourism to serve as a guide?
Well, Salih Abdullah there giving us a background to our conversation this morning. And we're kickstarting the conversation by introducing our special guest. First from Benin, where we are joined by MS Staples, Smithsonian National Museum of Art, the senior archivist and curator. Also with her, I would like to welcome you, MS Staples, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Have you join us. Also joining us in the studio in Benin is the Assistant Director and Curator of Benin National Museum, Theophilus Omagwe. It's my pleasure to have you.
Very much.
Okay, from Benin, we return here to Abuja, where we have two great artists with us in the studio. I'd like to welcome first Mr. Cornell again. He's the Director Licensing for the National Film Video Censors Board. Board of this. I would like to welcome Mr. Agim to the program.
Thank you very much.
Also with Mr. Agim in the studio is the Acting Director, Documentation and Monitoring Department, Mr. Isegbe, who is the acting director. Isegbe is the acting director of Documentation and Monitoring Department. We'd like to welcome you to the program. They are also practicing artists and gallery owners in their own respective ways.
Yeah, Blessing, I think we'd like to kickstart this conversation, starting with the acting director, Documentation and Monitoring of the National Gallery of Arts. Because when we talk about arts, how will you describe Nigerian arts and cultural heritage? Would you say that the country's local arts are being neglected, or are they being appreciated within and beyond Nigeria?
Thank you very much. when you talk about Nigeria's local art, it's a different subject from when you talk about Nigerian modern and contemporary art. Contemporary art is the art that the artworks produced by educated, classified artists. Local art associated with crafts synonymous to anonymous artists. In the market presently, local arts are more common and easily accessible because of the availability and the price. Contemporary art seems to be more in the elite class and in the hands of the collectors because of the value and the process of the production, because they are not reproducible, reproducible artworks. They are produced by the artist, and when once it's produced, it attracts patent rights, and the production of it is not possible. But unlike the craft that can be mass produced, it's easily available in the market. But now, as it is, but with this present, promotion and the awareness being created, I believe strongly that the art market is really gaining ground in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, you talk about how blessed is Nigeria. Looking at the various arts like you've defined it, we'll go to Mr. Agim now. Looking at what Nigeria has done over the years, running into century, decades, many decades way back, because arts is being traced about 500 BC. Can you try to put Nigeria in perspective when we talk about arts?
Yeah, thank you very much. We are very much aware that Nigeria is a diversified country, diversified culture. We have over 500 individual tribes in Nigeria, and each of these segments have their own unique culture that is peculiar to certain cultural entity. And it has come over the years, right from the Boku, from the Benin, from the Ife, up to the Nok culture. We all have this transitional arts to the present day. We started from the modern to the contemporary. In modern arts in Nigeria started from 1860, then progressed down to contemporary. That we have the Benuawus and the Brojanov Repaya. They are the pivot of contemporary arts. And I want to clear one thing. My colleague just mentioned the contemporary arts. You have to differentiate it from the crafts. All crafts are artwork. Not all artworks are crafts.
Okay.
Because in arts, in crafts,
where do you draw the line?
Yeah, although there's a thin divide. In crafts, there's multiplication. There's multiplication and repetition of artistic products, and which are peculiar to particular community. But in the contemporary arts, it's unique. It's a one-off thing. You can't produce it, because once you produce it, it's tilting towards mass production. And once it tilts towards mass production, it becomes more of craft. And most of the things you see today, like Joseph last art exhibition we had here with AFAT, 70% of the works on display are artwork, beautiful artwork, but they are tilting towards crafts. And crafts are more commercialized than contemporary works. So Nigeria really come of age. We have come of age. We are a party to some of the things we are taking up from Nigeria to the British Museum. And we are trying to get as much as possible a collaboration so that those things will come back to Nigeria. The art in Nigeria has really moved.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Agim. Now, let's return to Benin studio, where we have our two guests seated there. Let's start with you, Mr. Theophilus Umobai, Assistant Director, Curator of Benin National Museum. Now, what is the scope of what is considered arts, really? We've heard from the gentleman here. What is that scope of what is considered as art today? And what kind of conversation or thought is art holding with society today?
Thank you very much. From our perspective as museologists, we identify the tactile and non-tactile arts That is material and non-material culture of the people. The material culture refers to the crafts, like our guests have identified earlier. We talked about man-made crafts, while the non-material culture refers to the history, the oral narratives, the oral traditions of the people. But the two put together is what we in the museum are interested in. We try to ensure that both are carried along, because the stories of our past were best captured even in the crafts. From the 12th century, 13th century in Benin, for example, we've seen how the bronze casters represented the history of the people in their works. Motifs took off a life on their own, not as just decorative styles, but as recordings of the history of the people. So art has played that role even in the past. For contemporary artwork, there's need for us to encourage our youths, for example, to pick up interest, in what our forebears did. In Benin, there's this continuous encouragement for our youths to pick up the art of bronze casting or brass casting, as it were. We have a street in Benin, Egun Street, where it's being practiced up to date, where the knowledge is passed on from father to son. Because of what is happening in the world today, and our youths are observing everything that is going on, the need for economic empowerment has kind of made some people tilt away from the arts, believing that there's no money in it. But it's not true. There's a lot of potential of making money from it, if well harnessed. That is one level. The second level is when you are managing the heritage assets for the people like the museum does, there's need for us to carry them along. We talk about participatory management. Once that is involved, from planning to execution stage in terms of the heritage assets, the people get involved in it. The youths become interested. But when you enter a community and you become the custodian of maybe monuments that are there and the artworks that are there, the people distance themselves from you and believing that you've come to take over. But if there are stakeholders meetings like we do in the NCMM and people are carried along, the youths will be encouraged. The target should be the youths, because their minds are still under construction, and we can speak to them and encourage them to, pick up this interest in arts. With that, the future will be very bright for the arts in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Omagwe. We'll go to Mr. Steppers, of Smithsonian National Museum of Art, African Art. You are a senior archivist and curator, and I've been privileged to see what the huge setting that you have in Washington, D.C. But one area of interest, why Africa, and what is drawing you to Nigeria?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back in Benin, especially with this project, the Solomon Osagie Alonge project that we've been working on for over 5 years with the National Commission for Museums and Monuments and my colleague Theophilus Umogbai at the National Museum of Benin. We became interested in the visual history of Benin through the photographs of Chief Solomon Osagie Alonge, who was the official court photographer for over 50 years. From the 1930s through the 1970s. He documented the reign of Oba Akinzuwa II, and we were apprised of the collection through the work of Dr. Flora Kaplan, NYU professor, now emeritus, who did her fieldwork in Benin City back in the 1980s, befriended Solomon Alonge back then, and he entrusted her with his collection to find a venue in the United States to preserve and exhibit and publish his works. So we're so pleased that his vision has come to fruition now. We acquired the collection back in 2007 through the Alonge Family Trust, and we've been working with the museum ever since to document the history of Benin through photography. So photography enters the 20th century as an important visual form that takes its place alongside the traditional visual arts of Benin. So now we have photography and video as art forms and as forms of documentation. The collection consists of over 3,000 images, which we have shared digitally and also in print form with the National Museum of Benin. So this is the first exhibition the Smithsonian has done in Africa. So we're so pleased that Alonge is the face of this project, that an indigenous photographer who documented his own culture is represented so beautifully in the exhibit with the artworks at the National Museum of Benin.
Still with you, Amy, what exactly do you hope to achieve with this? Yes, this is a traveling exhibition all the way from Washington, where your Smithsonian is situated, and these works have been on display between 2014, I understand, till about 2006, and now it's coming home. What is in it for you as the Smithsonian Center, as well as what you're trying to achieve in Benin?
I like the way you say that. It's coming home. It's very important for the Smithsonian to engage with local communities about our collections. It's one of the things that we try to do with exhibitions now, is, as Theo was saying, we get the stakeholders involved, the community members involved. We've been interviewing people whose photographs were taken in the 50s and 60s, who are now in their 70s and 80s. So it's been a pleasure to actually meet the individuals who had their portraits taken in the Ideal Photo Studio that Alonge started in 1942. It was a wonderful means for Benin citizens to come to the studio and dress up in their finest clothes and represent themselves to their own communities and families, as opposed to colonial photography, which represented people in often very derogatory ways. So if you think about the 1930s and 40s, what were Americans seeing on television? Hollywood Tarzan versions of primitive Africa. And what we're seeing from Alonge's collection is a very sophisticated cosmopolitan community in Benin that was rising and becoming an industrial city. And the elite, for example, the Benin Social Circle, that was the intellectual and the community civil leaders that were becoming important in the political scene and in the economic scene. So it's actually a visual history that very few people here know about. So that's why we want to share these collections. We want to engage with communities. We want to interview people about this history, because it's very important to the representations of Benin to the outside world. So we're so pleased that we're able to share this collection with the Benin Museum and with the Royal Palace as well, and that we are working on this collaboratively, because this is the first collaboration that the Smithsonian has done with the Nigerian Commission. And we're just so pleased that the photographs and the images on display are actually a gift from the Smithsonian to the Nigerian museums. So it's a permanent exhibit. It's not a traveling show per se. It's a permanent gift. So we're so pleased about that. It's historic.
Very much, Amy. We'll still get back to you. But quickly, Mr. Omogbai, before we get back to the gentleman in Abuja studio here. Now, how is this resonating with the locals, with the residents of Benin, and even indeed the royal family, having this traveling exhibition come back home to do more? And have you ever had this large collection, even in the museum back then in Benin?
Well, museum from inception, we've had massive collections, mainly, you know, the material culture. I talked about the non-material and material culture, that is crafts. So we have them, a lot of them in our storage, even before now, and in our exhibitions. But the difference now is that photography is coming in, just like Dr. Amy Staples mentioned. While in the past, we were using these crafts, the artifacts, to document our history, we've seen now a man who is actually an icon, Solomon Osage Alonge, who in the 30s, 40s, 50s helped to document not just the court activities in the palace, but the social history of the people. So that is just the difference. So this large collection is just an addition to what we'll be doing. For example, in our gallery, it's a 3-tier gallery. So Alonge is sitting on the first level, but the ground level and the top level, we still have exhibitions there that will reflect our culture through our own arts, our own artifacts. But Alonge is coming in to help us now generate more interest, especially among the adults who we imagine will want to come and see photographs, rare ones, that they might not have seen before. Photographs of maybe their great-grandparents while they were teenagers, and maybe they didn't even know before. So we are hoping that when visitors come, they're likely to interact more with us. They're likely to turn our exhibit gallery into a rendezvous for family reconstruction and bonding more than we used to have, because now they can relate with the photographs and tell stories about them and talk about family albums, etc., etc. So we are hopeful that more of the adults will show up, because our target has always been the children, schools and all that. So the adult population now will be more interested because they want to come and see whether they can have, a glimpse of their family history as it was in the past. We're having a massive album of photographs, some will not be exhibited, that will show to visitors when they come. So when they come, they are likely to, among the thousands that we'll have, identify one or two. That is like bringing the community into the museum. It's going to be massive, and we're excited about it.
Well, pictures usually remain living memory, because when you capture those things in action and reflect over it after 2 decades, 5 decades, no talk of 100 years or more, you begin to see, oh, well, this is how Nigeria moved, gained independence. This is how Nigeria, because October 1st is here for us to celebrate again. What pictures do we have to really reflect on? These are some of the issues. We thank you, Mr. Mwagwe. We'll be coming back to you in a moment. Solomon Osage Alonge is one among many Nigerians that have done a whole lot in the area of arts and culture. And this challenges me to ask, what is his place in the socio-economic development of the nation? Let me start with Mr. Jenny.
Well, I can see that so much has been done. I will work mostly in collaborations, you understand. So when we talk about support and for the artists and for promotion to support the economy, it is supposed to be a collaboration from the stakeholders, from other agencies who are into the same business with, in the same field, the promotion of art to support the tourism and the socio-cultural development of the country. So I see that, like the National Gallery, for instance, from my experience in working in the gallery, they have been supporting the artists to grow up. A lot of big artists today who are participating in big art market, auction houses abroad, were exposed through the promotion, through such activities. So I still believe that with the government encouragement to open and remove some of the restrictions that hinder, such free flow of the kind of economy that we are struggling to promote, if such barriers are taken off.
When you talk about restrictions, what kind of restrictions are beating?
If I talk about restrictions, if artists, for instance, wants to go and exhibit outside, the process of going out, taking the works out and all that, the issuance of visas and all that, those restrictions are a lot of discouragement to the artists. So the gallery now is working towards removing those barriers, creating monitoring and working in collaboration with agencies that, monitor inflow and the inflow of economic support materials like the artifact, you know. So if they allow, you know, those free flow of transactions, it can help a lot of artists to support the economy.
But before you're projected before the world stage, there must have been something you've started. You're an artist yourself.
Yes.
I'm sure before you started maybe taking yours outside, there were locally done exhibition or presentation of such works.
Yeah.
How much encouragement is that getting for us to even know this is what we have? Eso Alonge, as we're told, started even photographing just from the palace and some other things that he saw as his own cultural ways before being celebrated on this world stage.
Every year,
how much have we done?
Every year we make collections from exhibitions. There's hardly any exhibition the gallery attends without making collections. And those collections, they generate a lot of revenue for the artists. They preserve the culture of the people. They preserve the skill of the people as it develops from stage to stage, with exposition from various schools of art development. You know, those are a lot of support. And even now, the trained experts within the gallery are there disposed for to render services to the artists who are upcoming, who are struggling on their own to, you know, stage exhibitions and put their works in the market. Like, for instance, the outdoor, there are other areas like the outdoor, like if you look at the whole of Abuja now, you know, it's supposed to attract some kind of environmental embellishment and decorations. You know, these are things that we are putting in place, making it possible to create a good, you know, a platform for the artists to develop in that.
All right, so let's get back to Mr. Agime Cliff.
Yes.
Some of the areas Ms. Amy Staples talked about, over 3,000 digital images already put on photographic means to actually project. You're with the National Film and Video Censors Board. Yes, oftentimes we've heard of, okay, stories of Nigerians being told in different means, or actually even projecting that, which is not really our story in our films and so on. Now, there is an opportunity for this other form of arts to actually project that. Where is the Film Censors Board in all of this?
Well, some time ago, I put up a proposal to the former DG on a symbiotic relationship between the visual arts and the performing arts, where there will be a kind of fusion. And if we look at films from abroad compared to the films we have today, there's what they call established shots. And these established shots, once you go into a room, the first thing you do is to shoot at a particular art piece in that locality. So what we're trying to encourage our Nollywood practitioners is to get artworks as much as possible into internal embellishments of those buildings that they are shooting. So that assuming there is a fighting scene or there is a love scene, the first thing, before that scene is being propagated, a work of art is being projected from the wall. Probably a knock or one of these beautiful art displayed somewhere in the kitchen or in the walkway, and then back to the actual scene. Now, in this symbiotic relationship, we are encouraging both the artists, the visual artists, and the performing artists. Well, I am in between because I am a visual artist by my first profession, and then into the performing arts and into film. So I cut across between the visual and the film person. Now, for us to grow and for us to have returns for investment in the arts, we have to have deliberate policies to improve the artists. I'm sorry to say, there must be a government deliberate policy to improve the arts. And those policies, for a very long time now, we have not talked about a national policy on culture. We have not opened our books because the last one was done almost 20 years ago. We need to read those things and come back with a positive formation for the arts. I want to see a situation where every government building must have a recognized artwork done in Nigeria. I'm sorry, I walked into this place, I was a little bit disappointed because I didn't see an artwork.
From the gate, we have the sculpture.
No, we have the sculpture. No, in the sitting area. You know, I needed to see more.
You saw some.
Well,
but
they
were not Nigerian.
You saw that fountain. No, you saw that fountain. It's an artwork.
I saw an artwork brought from
the foreign
Dubai.
Yeah, so
no.
Anyway, you are going to bring something.
Anyway, we'll go back.
Okay, we'll get that because NT identifies with that.
Yeah.
If you see the documentary piece done today, we've done a lot of documentaries both in Benin. We had Fisayo going there to do special documentaries that receive commendations across. Even entering NTA, you just see the artwork. Even our logo, our master logo, beautiful. Defines Nigerian art.
I just identified
but
one.
Just moving ahead, let's look at the perspective of United States, because more often than not, you talk of arts from its economic value to a given nation, and also building the capacity of the artists. Yes. Amy, let me come to you, because in museums in the United States, I've been to the Chicago Institute of Arts, I've been to the Smithsonian National Museum. You need to identify with that museum by paying a token for you to go through that. And that you have millions of visitors, coming there, that accumulate into millions of dollars. How can the National Museum be organized in such a way as to benefit a given nation like Nigeria? Looking at our endowments from the United States perspective, how much success you've done in that area? Emmy.
Well, first let me say that the Smithsonian is a governmental organization, a nonprofit educational institution. We do not charge a penny for anyone to come into our museums. We have 19 museums and research centers. So we do not get any revenue from the public. We get our budget from Congress. We're totally dependent on that for conservation, preservation, exhibition, display, research. So we're not a commercial entity. Our ability to share the collections comes from our own funds that allow us to do the research and to preserve and share the collections with our constituents. So I just wanted to make that clear, that we do not charge for entrance fees.
And with Chicago Institute for Arts, because I know payments are made before you could have a ticket to go around there.
Did you pay?
Like most, yes, I did pay when I went to Chicago Institute for Arts, and that was during the United States International Visitor Leadership Program. And millions of visitors come there from their records, just like some other museums. How can they be coordinated to benefit the artists? That's exactly the question.
How can they be coordinated to benefit the arts?
The artists themselves.
Repeat the question.
How could the government and, of course, the museums play a role in building the capacity of an artist to be economically viable and beneficial to giving the person's works?
Well, I mean, we do support African artists that come to our museum to do research. We have artist research fellowships. We bring artists from Africa for several weeks. We have fellowship programs where scholars can come and study our collections for up to a year. So we do award these fellowships through various grant programs and also exchange programs with African artists on the continent. So we work very hard to make our collections accessible to African artists and African scholars. And now African photographers is very important in terms of researching this history of African photography that is not well known. Over the past 20 years, there's been a number of scholars working in art history around the world to rediscover who were these African photographers that were working in the late 19th century, throughout the 20th century. The amazing thing about the Alonge collection that survived the many years of heat and humidity is testament to Alonge's own preservation and conservation of the glass plate negatives, which rarely survive in Africa. So it's a unique collection, and it's something that we have in the paramount for the archives is to preserve the work of African photographers and to find out who they were and what is this history. So one of the things we've done, we've collaborated with the Benin Museum on a publication called Fragile Legacies, the photographs of Solomon Osagie Elonge. The book will launch at the opening of the museum on Friday. The book is a collaboration with Nigerian artists, photographers, scholars, who all contributed to coming up with this collaborative book. It's a jointly owned book between the National Commission for Museums and Monuments and the Smithsonian, the first of its kind. And we're very proud to launch it in Nigeria and to have local perspectives on what is the importance of Elonge's photography. How does it relate to the traditional arts of Benin? So we have many voices that are represented in the book, and we're extremely proud to bring it to Nigeria and to make it available to the community here in Benin and also wider in the whole country of Nigeria, so people can be proud of their cultural heritage. Someone like Elonge, who was a chief in the Ewebo Palace Society, as well as owning a studio, Ideal Photo Studio in Benin. He had parallel careers and was also a prominent member of the Benin community, a member of the Central Baptist Church, and very well respected amongst his peers and family and community members. So it's a source of pride for the Benin community. So we're very pleased.
Source of pride to the Benin Kingdom. It's a source of pride for Nigeria. But how can we sustain these collaborations? How can we position the National Museum and the monuments to, you know, be international in every sense of the word? Let's get your perspective on that.
You see, like what the Smithsonian Institute have done through that staple. I mean, staple is just it's an exciting story, because like now, if we have this kind of collaboration to bring out documentations and put the works of the artists together and put them on international pedestal for the world to see, it's a lot of support and promotion for the artists and for all the nations of the world. So it is necessary that we work together. You know, especially in putting documentation, because documentations that are of works that are done in museums, works that are done in the National Gallery of Art, works that are done in the Film Censors Board and other agencies, they are distinctive. And if they are brought together, and they will be a clear demarcation, a clear understanding of the functions of the agencies and how it affects the individual artists and the economy generally, and even the educational institutions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Isegwe. We'll go on this break, gentlemen, and of course, lady. When we return from the break, Nigerians are already sending in their tweets reacting to the discourse this morning. And when we return, how much more can we do with young persons, artists generally, to put us on the global stage once more? You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We'll be right back after this break.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
It's about that time. States across the country coming together for one purpose, one goal. They are young, they are solution providers. The NTA ETV Children's Expo 2017, holding at the NTA Arena, Area 11, Garki, Abuja, with the theme Renewable Energy, Industrialization, Arts and Agriculture as tools to bring Nigeria out of economic recession, with sub-themes post-harvest processing and preservation, and using arts and crafts to promote tourism. Date 22nd to 27th October 2017. This expo is open to ages 6 to 12 years for junior category and 13 to 18 years for the senior category. It's about the Art, Science and Technology Expo. For sponsorship consideration, please call the following numbers.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. We're still taking a look at our topic, taking a look at art and its value, its place in the social economic developments of the nation. And of course, we've had different perspective from the artists in the house this morning.
It's something that is quite exciting when you see the artistic work of Nigerians at most of these exhibitions. You begin to wonder that this country is indeed blessed from every perspective. But Nigerians have been joining us, in this conversation where we're looking at appreciating artworks towards socio-economic development of the nation. And we have Ella here saying, our vast and rich cultural heritage should be strategically repositioned to partner tourism as its driver to lift our economy and create jobs.
Omar has this tweet. We have seen revolution in telecom sector, and that revolution can be replicated in other sectors if only government does the needful.
And Solomon Rising is imperative that the Nigerian artists improve the quality of their artworks in the country as it has the potential to develop our economy.
MK tweets, first, government should have political will, and second, professionals should be brought on board to develop implementable blueprints.
And Major Rise, there is the urgent need for a meaningful and sustainable financing of the cultural development by the government and financial institutions in Nigeria.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, government should partner with the private sector to invest in arts and vital information.
Celestino Okonkwo says, good morning, Cliff and Blessing. Arts should be given a proper priority for it to boost the economy and provide employment also.
It continues.
Yes, and your morning program is thought-provoking and always enlightening to the core. Arts and culture can promote unity amongst all.
Certainly. Well, this Twitter handle is at first. It said, diverse artists will attract more philanthropic funding and patronage if they work together to develop Nigeria's arts.
Well, you see that. Look at reactions of Nigerians because we're talking about a whole lot that we could be made to be like the telecom sector.
Yeah, of course, it's
what do we need to do? What steps do we need to start taking right now from the government perspective, from the artists, and all that coming together to move the nation forward?
Honestly, if we really want to move a step further from where we are, government has to be very proactive towards the arts. Yes. First and foremostly, we have to have what they call community exhibitions from the hamlet, from the schools, from the local government, to the state government, and into the national. We have to enhance our exhibition prowess and then attract foreign visitors. For quite a while, Nigerians have not had expositions outside. I remember vividly when we were in informations, we used to take our art on what they call an international show. Okay, we used to go from Egypt to Asia to the US, and then it takes about a month. By the time we come back, there are a lot of inputs from the foreign admirers. But governments, I'm sorry to say, have not really put money into promoting arts. We need to go out. We need to blow your trumpets. Okay, we can't just sit down here and these visitors coming in. Even our visitors coming in towards watching our exhibitions here a little bit cumbersome. We have to be flexible. Government has to come up with very progressive policies. Now let me say this. If our National Assembly can promulgate a law of embellishment, let all government buildings have at least one renowned artwork, one artwork in each government building. So that once you come into any place, you have to recognize that entity, that place has a peculiar art synonymous to the building or whatever. Once this is done and government is proactive towards it, I think it's going to take us from where we are to the next level.
How much are Nigerians appreciating Nigerians' work of art?
Oh, incredible.
By buying them off? It's not just observing it. Okay,
No,
do you
incredible.
understand?
Incredible.
Because the cost element also comes into the picture,
yes,
right?
Yeah, you know, art is relative. And art is so organized that you fit into your strata. Art, I keep on saying, is like wine. The more you reserve the wine, red wine or whatever, it gets more matured. The problem we have now with our contemporary or young artists is that the minute they come out from school, they want to be like Benny Wangu, they want to be like Bruce Onurupaya, they want to be like Tulaway and the rest. No.
That's ambition.
Yeah, it's ambition, but you have to grow. You have to grow. This is, it ferments, okay? And I remember sometimes ago in the gallery, we were trying to have what they call the National Art Registration Council, where certain values will be added towards appreciating arts, and arts can be used as collateral. You know, once we have these values affixed to each work of art, you can go and use it as collateral in bank, you can have value for it during action, and then it falls into structure. So that if you have 2 kobo, you go for 2 kobo artworks. If you have $1 million, you go for $1 million work. So these things have to be worked out, and government has to come in to help the Artist Registration Council.
So at a given exhibition or gallery, museum, monuments, who are the highest number of visitors to say, okay, let's even assess how society view art? Young persons, mid-age, older people?
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at the older people.
The older people?
Yeah, you'll be surprised.
So why have the young ones not been taken into consideration?
Yes, because there is a lacuna somewhere. Most of our art schools, most of our tertiary institutions don't even teach arts.
Why?
Why? Because they don't even know that even this art you're seeing has a therapeutic, inducement towards it. In other realm, once in the tertiary nursery, the people are given crayons and a blank book. You just play all kinds of things. It makes meaning. The people who interpret these forms from the neophyte, these forms from kids. The next set, let's say the creation state into primary 1, you throw in these art equipments, they just splash pens, you read meaning into it and you develop. You look at the people who have creative tenants and then nurture them in that line so that they really come out of their best. But we don't do that. And let me tell you, I knew I had arts embedded in me. In my school, we didn't even have arts in WAEC, but I love arts because I was gifted in drawing. I just had to sit and have this art and then go to a
So how did you encourage yourself?
Fine, I have to read, I have to look, I have to imitate. Other, like one was so crazy about his longism and all those stuff. By the time I went to school, I started going to the library, looking at the museums, appreciating different artworks. And of course, it encouraged me, into what I'm doing today.
All right, Mr. Agim, let's get to Benin. I'm sure for a civilized city and the placement that Benin has given the world map in terms of arts, works, and civilization. We talk about the bronze, we talk about the metals, we talk about different things. Now, are young persons today being brought in to actually appreciate that, which is a form of civilization for the people, ancient Benin Empire?
Me? Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, at the National Museum, Benin City, the young people are, in terms of statistics, they constitute the higher percentage of visitors to the National Museum, Benin, than even the adult population. Because the schools, somehow there's this awareness among schools in Benin that they organize a kind of tour of our exhibition. Just that for the past 1 year, we're having a low in terms of attendance because we're planning this particular exhibition. But once it's come on stream now, we are sure we'll be able to balance it a bit by involving the adult population. But Benin is a special case because art is everywhere, crafts are everywhere. People are used to them. So they find it difficult, some of them, to say, why do I have to come and pay a fee to come and see what I know, what I have? For up till the 70s or 80s, virtually every family house in Benin had a shrine at the back, the backyard. where they engage in ancestral worship. It's just the intrusion of modern religion that has kind of watered it down a bit, but they are still there. So they are used to most of these objects, and maybe that accounts for why a percentage, you know, of those that don't believe they can come and view our exhibition. But now that we have a different dimension to what we used to have, I'm sure they'll be more interested. But the youths, the young ones, they come. Apart from just visiting, the museum has educational programs targeted at the young ones, especially of secondary school age. We have Saturday Art Club. We have long holiday programs. We have a capacity building where they are taught different art forms, paper mache, throw pillows, etc. That is during the long holiday period. We have educators who take them through this exercise. For their longer, we are planning that one good way to sustain it is to see how we can bring in photography into it in terms of the capacity building programs that we have. And a good way to start will be encouraging them. We may not even need to buy expensive cameras. They are used to their handsets already, using them for selfies. They take beautiful photographs, you know, of themselves using their hands. We want to now refocus and see how they can use the cameras that the ancestors they have to document history in their locality. Encourage them to do ethnographies. Are you staying in an area where you have where the Benin moat passes through? It's just like maybe a mile away from your house. Tell your parents about it. Let them take you there and just film it for us. And maybe write the story. Google about Benin earthworks and do a kind of short ethnography about it. In that case, we were able to encourage them to, you know, come into the arts. When we were preparing for this exhibition, we had a program called Museums Connect. And somehow we couldn't get funding for it, we being NCMM and the Smithsonian. And that is why the idea fell through. But we are hoping to build on that, the ideals behind that Museums Connect, which is to see how we can get school children in Nigeria to interact and relate with school children abroad using ICT platforms like Skype and the likes. It's a very good idea, and we'll see how we can build on it. We need to continue with the programs for our youths so that through them also their parents could, you know, play a role. When they see the result of what they've done, they will be amazed. Now, the ethnographies I talked about, documenting them with handsets, we will now conflict them in a maybe in a hard drive, put it there, and we can be showing them even in the gallery through the visual means. So we have a lot of plans on how we can sustain this project. And may I add also that yes, we are collaborating with the Smithsonian about the main issue, which is Chief Eso Alonge and his photographs, and of course our other exhibitions that we have in on our two floors. But the point must be made that we have some art lovers who came together under the Benin Committee. They were the ones who attracted funding for this project. The Edo State government played a key role. Heritage Bank played a key role as well. So actually we have people in the society, corporate organizations who are actually interested. It's just left for anyone who has ideas to put them down in the form of a proposal and approach them. They may get sponsorship. The museum also encourages the artists through temporary exhibitions. We have halls that they come and for just a token fee, they rent and they showcase their works and they are purchased. In that way, they are empowered. So we are an agent for empowerment. That is the NCMM. So that is part of the roles we play. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mabwai. Let's now move to Eme, because this is a very, one would say this is a milestone, the collaboration between Smithsonian National Museum for African Art and the Benin National Museum is a milestone in its sense. I want to get your perspective, Eme, because outside there, what is the perspective? What is the picture? The outside world, from the United States perspective, you know, when it comes to Nigerian arts, what it can offer to the world, looking at our endowments, looking at our divergent culture, you know, the great endowments we have in Nigeria, and how can we sustain this collaboration going forward?
Yes, the Smithsonian is very interested in continuing the collaboration that we've started here in Benin. Our work, we have many works from Nigeria because of the diversity of ethnic groups, the history of the British colonial influence and the collections that have moved in and out of Nigeria. We are so well represented in our museum by Nigerian art and photography in our archive of over 500,000 photographic images from Africa. A large percentage of them are from Nigeria because of the connection between the British and the US and Nigeria. A lot of these colonial photographs have moved from Nigeria to England, then to US. So we're so strongly represented by Nigeria, and we want to continue to develop this relationship. And through the educational programming and initiatives that we've begun with the Benin Museum, we hope to continue to get funding to promote, for example, photography workshops for youth. The youth really understand photography intuitively, and they're so attracted to it. Photography, video, media, digital media, it's a natural for youth. So we find that this really will attract community members to come to the museum and engage with the Alonge collection, to tell the stories of the individuals who are represented in the collection, to get their histories, their oral histories, to promote the intergenerational aspects of this collection. The children interacting with their elders to find out about their own family history, to record that history. So we really see this as just the beginning of a first step in engaging, getting a foothold here in Nigeria for the Smithsonian, and continuing to develop our programs and exchange and getting funding to continue to work here. We have a number of our Smithsonian staff here in Benin, our education department head, our PR advancement team. So we're invested now, and we want to continue to work towards these mutual goals that we have in spreading the arts of Nigeria around the world.
All right, thank you very much. Amy Staples will just go on the home stretch now. We'll just, by way of signing off the program, just get everyone that's coming. Now, Janet Sebi, now, what art has done for other clients and what it can do for us is key for us at this point. A system like America's Smithsonian is doing so much, collaborating with our own museum here. Now, what other areas can the private sector collaborate with the government as well as other artists and indeed the family to project art to the level we want it to get to?
The National Gallery particularly has some program, a lot of programs on ground that benefit artists and the society. You know, our major problem right now is funding. We're all aware of what is happening from the government side, because if we design a program, a very beautiful program, and there's no fund to implement it, it becomes morbid. You know, like for instance, my colleague just spoke about the embellishment. We have put up a program, a proposal to the government for this embellishment act to be passed, so that we can work towards getting, you know, public buildings to assimilate some of the production, some of the artworks that the artists produce. Because if artists keep producing works and they are not consumed, where are they going to get the resources to produce more? Or
Can't we push in other direction? This, like even it's not being supported by the government.
But for instance, like the public, I keep talking about the documentation, for instance, the works that we have compiled them for documentations. If we print out and circulate the books to the libraries all over the world, so we are ready to collaborate with the Smithsonian to, you know, to update our publication and documentation in the gallery to get them in the Smithsonian and the World Library.
Okay, well, actually, that's a step forward. From your perspective, Colonel Agim, we must not completely depend on government for everything.
Right,
Every time we talk government, and you have endowment that you need to move into the outside world, partner with the private sector. What could be done in that direction to ensure that we're able to sell our arts and make the best of it?
Yeah, artists should help themselves. We have to look inwards. We have to partner with our guilds, because we have Society of Nigerian Artists. They have been in existence for almost 50 years now. We have Art Galleries Owners Association of Nigeria. These are groups, these are associations that they can source of funds from. I don't want to mention foundations, but we have a lot of foundations in Nigeria today that are accessible. But the problem we have is that a lot of times we kind of sit back and depend too much on government. Yes, I know government has a say, but we should not, in its reality, depend totally on government. A time has reached where we need to source our own resources from corporate bodies. And the only way to do this is to put up a comprehensive and analytical proposal to these groups. And I think they're ready to play ball.
I think moving forward, we'll move to Benin, where we have the director and curator of Benin National Museum. What is your last word? What is your last thoughts on how we can reposition the national museums to promote arts for socio-economic benefits?
We've just begun with this collaboration, and the opening of the exhibition, which will take place tomorrow from 12 at our museum. And we intend to build on it, reach out to schools the way we have been doing it, maybe modify it a bit, and reach out to the community, and the community reaches out to us as well. The need for engagement between the NCMM, that's National Museum Benin in this case, and the community is germane, because without them, there's no way that the ideals that we want to propagate will manifest itself. So we are hoping that we use it as a springboard. That is the exhibition now, the 3-tier exhibition. We use it as a springboard to engage with the community more and involve them in what we do, make them our friends, and move on and ensure that the youths are encouraged to take up arts, encourage their parents through our programs like what I've just mentioned. I'm sure these same children will be taught the art of photography and ethnography. We go back to their parents and encourage them as well, and the parents, I'm sure, will respond. Even when we teach them how to produce all those things I mentioned, the art forms, they go back and the parents are always enthralled. They come back and they tell us, oh, my child, I never knew my child had this potential for arts. I never knew. So I would say I can build on that. So little efforts that we make will help us.
I think I would like to thank you there. But first, Nigerians are still very much interested in our discussion this morning, focusing on appreciating us for socioeconomic development. We have Comrade Danjuma. He writes that the value of art goes beyond revenue generation. It's a beautiful representation of a nation's historical heritage. Blessing.
Yes, that's true. Clifford has the street. Preservation of works of art is a clear area of challenge and represents an ample opportunity for business and partnership.
Imo Daniel says, our oil must finish one day, so the earlier Nigeria switch on to art and culture, the better.
Clifford again tweets, African civilization and science began with art. Art can and must leverage ICTs to add to the GDP of the country.
And Muhammad Jamil writes, our schools must be places where ideas are developed, transferred to our society to affect positively the overall well-being of Nigerians.
And from Jamil is this last tweet, is time we institutionalize our culture while making arts well-developed courses in all levels of schooling. Well, those are some of the tweets that we have time to...
Blessing, we've come a long way, and we're getting signals there. It's on this note that we'd like to say special thanks to all our guests. From Benin, we say special thanks to the Senior Archivist and Curator of Smithsonian National Museum of Arts and Culture, Ms. Amit Staples. We thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here and with my colleague, Theophilus Umogbai, and we look forward to everybody coming to the museum to make it a living presence and not just a place where you come to see artifacts under glass, but where the community actually engages in the museum and makes it a living center. So we think this is changing the nature of how people perceive museums in Nigeria. So thank you so much for having us.
Making the museum a living center. We won't forget that in a hurry. And I would like to say a special thanks to the director and curator of Benin National Museum, Mr. Theophilus Omagbai. Well, thank you so much.
And from tomorrow, come to the museum and see an exhibition beyond the showcase. Thank you.
Very much, Mr. Omagbai. I think I should send you a bill for all the adverts today. Okay, we also like to appreciate here in the Abuja studio, Mr. Ajene Isebe is the Acting Director of Documentation and Monitoring Department, National Arts Gallery. Thank you very much for your insights on the program today.
Thank you very much. So when you apply when you create the holes, you then put your manure and you cover the manure and put 2 seeds of cucumber at a spacing of about 60 centimeters between plants. When it germinates, then you can do the first hoeing using the small hoe, and you can apply a little bit of urea 2 weeks from germination. And as the rain falls, it enhances the growth.
Cucumbers can be propagated by planting the seeds directly into the soil, or by planting before transplanting. Basically here we plant before transplanting.
Cucumber requires a constant water supply to reach high quality and yields. Periods of growth when the plant is most susceptible to irrigation deficit include seed germination, flowering, and fruit enlargement. The frequency of irrigation is largely dependent on soil type and weather conditions. When watering cucumbers, focus your effort at the base of the main stem. It is usually a good idea to water in the morning hours. Watering cucumbers adequately is the key to high-quality food production. Also, one can use the drip irrigation set